I'm not in a room anymore. I'm in a wing of a building that doesn't exist. At least not on the map. Welcome to the Innovation Forge. Today we dive into the Fieldsmiths Guide to the Eternal Stacks Eldralith. Let's see how innovation meets artistry as we forge something extraordinary together.
You are listening to the Innovation Forge, the #1 podcast on adaptive enrollment management, exploring the data, marketing, and strategy that fuels higher education. Here's your host, David Dysart.
Let's see how the cosmic entities take shape today. Hi guys. So, I bought a notebook. Nothing fancy, just one of those sturdy hardcovers. With a little elastic strap. College ruled, because I'm not a monster. I even splurged on a fresh pack of gel pens, color-coded, some tabs, Post-its. I have plans. The goal. It's a special segment for the podcast, actually. Something that could live, alongside the interviews, maybe even a spin-off into a report or two. The working title is the Fieldsmiths Register of Systems. I loved the sound of it. It had that slightly dusty artisan feel, like something you'd find wedged between a faculty senate binder and a SCOTUS amicus brief. Well, the idea was simple. Just research the major platforms shaping higher ed today. Not a think piece, not a teardown, just, documentation. What do they claim to do? Who uses them? What are their quirks, their features, their philosophies baked into the UX and the configuration? It's a tour of systems, nothing more. Slate, Workday, Element 451, Razor's Edge, you know the list. I'm not going to go through it. I was so excited. It felt like a service, like building a guidebook for fellow enrollment folks. IT staff, faculty, vendors, really anyone who'd ever been handed a login and just told, welcome to the ecosystem. Well, my first entry, obviously, is going to be Slate. So I wrote my name at the top of the page. I boxed it in, underlined it twice. I didn't know then, but the second I touched pen to paper, something changed. The Fieldsmiths Register isn't a notebook anymore. It's a map. And I think I just started unfolding it. Hi y'all, I've been working on my Fieldsmiths Register of Systems for the last couple hours. Figured I'd hop on, do another audio diary for it. I've been reviewing what should be just a basic behavioral sequence. I mean, if you know the podcast, you know the kind of work I do. Just login timestamps, password resets, routine stuff. But something twisted in the way the data branches. It's not random, it's recursive, circular. Like the activity is responding before the stimulus. I've stared at the portal logs long enough to see them flicker. I mean, not metaphorically, literally, they flicker. Earlier tonight, I followed a ping trail from a test record I created weeks ago. I shouldn't even be able to trace the ID anymore. I deleted it. But it logged in. Not from here, from somewhere beneath the system, like a ghost crawling through its own forms. I dreamt of it again. The lattice, the obsidian lattice, endless branches lit by pulsing nodes, each one humming with status updates that haven't been published yet. I reached to click one. My mouse wouldn't move. My hands weren't hands anymore. They were drop-downs. The offer letters were hanging from tendrils like cocoons. I saw names, thousands of names, my name, multiple versions of it. Inquiries I never submitted, outcomes I never chose, a round labeled final, round C, real one. I tried to exit the system. I tried to log out, but there is no log out, though. Only another round. Slate. It's the form weaver of endless branches. The form weaver sees all. Hi y'all, more weirdness while working on my Fieldsmiths Register on Systems project. I didn't even go looking for it. The floor plans shifted. Literally, they shifted beneath the admin wing while I was tracing deferred payroll workflows. No one else noticed. Of course they didn't, but where there was a door, I mean, there hadn't been one there before. No label, just brushed aluminum and a lock that it didn't require a key, only intention. Beyond it, silence. A sterile stillness broken only by the distant thrum of processing power. That's when I saw it. The Titan. 6 limbs of articulated glass and steel, humming with flowcharts in real time. Its body shimmered with dashboards. The widgets were blooming across its exoskeleton like an invasive species. Its eyes weren't even eyes, they were requisition forms. So many. Watching, approving, rejecting. It was auditing my thoughts. Every curriculum update, every job posting, every time off request whispered through its frame. I could hear them all. The inputs, the validations, the red lines. It doesn't forget. You think you pressed submit for approval. It lets you think that. Its domain isn't the interface. It's just a mask. Its realm is beneath, folded between fiscal years and benefits. It doesn't move through space. It reorganizes it. When I turned to leave, I wasn't in the same hallway. The budget office had become a vault of org charts. People walked past me with vacant eyes, their ID badges pulsing like a heartbeat monitor. One of them looked at me. Workday, the modular one beneath the fold. The modular one has no need for doors. It unfolds around you. I didn't mean to go deeper, but after what happened in that lattice work of Slate and that modular thing beneath the admin shell, I couldn't stop wondering, if those two, if they're not just tools, then what are they? So I went hunting. I pulled up a list of CRMs with newer architecture, ones that didn't come from the old build. That's when I found it. Element 451. Well, the documentation was unusually eager, like it wanted to be read. Personalization tags danced before I typed. Predictive modules arranged themselves around me. The platform wasn't responding. It was curating. I traced IP logs, found a pattern, daily engagement spikes that didn't correlate with any traffic sources, bursts of behavior before any outbound messaging. I thought it was a glitch, but it wasn't. I isolated one student record, then another, then 50. Each showed activity before the contact, the ember. Wait, why did I call it that? Yes, I mean, that's what it feels like now. It doesn't wait for behavior. It generates it. Late last night, I opened a contact record that shouldn't exist. My own name? Profile complete. It had already tagged me, segmented me, drafted a message. The subject line read, "Still curious, David?" I heard a sound behind me, like a whispered, mid of spark. I don't think I'm tracking it. I think it's tracking me. Element 451, the Ascendant Thought Ember. The ember is already in your head. You just haven't opened the message yet. I thought advancement systems would be safer, slower, more ceremonial than, well, sentient. But I was wrong. So wrong. I pulled historical giving data, just a surface scan, just a clean little export, but the file, it grew. Not corrupted, but expanding. Each time I opened it, more columns appeared, affinity signature, gratitude imprint, resonance tier, and a final column simply labeled remembered. I checked with the advancement team. They'd never seen those fields before. Said it must have just been a plugin. But when I checked the plugin list, there was no plugin. Just a note in the logs. RE: the binder is benevolent. Do not inquire. I mean, I thought it was a joke until I visited the donor archive room. The portraits, painted, not printed, they had names beneath them that weren't in our database. But when I whispered them aloud, the lights flickered, the temperature, it got so cold. Something moved behind the donor wall, a long shape. It coiled around the plaques like rosary beads. It smiled, not with a face, just with recognition. The memory binder doesn't just store records, it feasts on them. It weaves nostalgia into currency, thank you notes into binding contracts. The more you recall, the tighter it coils. I backed away. My badge scanned itself on the door. I didn't touch anything, I swear. I just got a confirmation email? A recurring gift to my name. I didn't make it. But I would feel guilty about canceling it. As if something might forget me if I do. What happens if I'm forgotten? Razor's Edge, the memory binder of the benevolent maw. It remembers those who give, and it never forgets who stops. I didn't come here for answers, though I find myself with questions. So many questions. I came here because I needed a place to sleep. The admin wing locks at midnight now. That wasn't always the case. I lost track of time researching the Fieldsmiths guide. Let me check. Yes. The Fieldsmiths Guide of Systems. The book says systems. Did you always say systems? Anyways, I requested temporary housing just for a night. I didn't expect to be assigned. The room number was 000. Well, I thought it was a joke until the RA handed me a key, an old brass thing. They said I had been selected. I had been matched. The hallway was too long. The layout didn't match the building I saw from the outside. My footsteps echoed behind me, even well after I had stopped. And the doors, some were chained shut. Others opened into stairwells that led up and then back down into, well, they were different years. 2016, 1998, one said fall, waitlist overflow. At the end of the corridor, I found it. The gatekeeper. This was the first true Eldralith I've seen. Its wings unfolded like blueprints, its feathers pulled heavily, those brass keys at the end of them. They were labeled with student IDs. Its belly glowed with floor plans I didn't recognize, layered over and over and over one another, like geometric static. I could see the students in them. Some were real, others were echoes. Maintenance requests fluttered through the air like moths as it flapped its wings. Roommate disputes scratched themselves into the wall. The gatekeeper watches. It knows who skipped their RA meeting, who reported a leak, who never actually checked out May 23rd, 2012. I reached for my key, but it was never there. But I could still feel the weight. It was pulling me. I'm not in a room anymore. I'm in a wing of a building that doesn't exist. At least not on the map. Starrez, the gatekeeper of dormant dwellings. The key knows you, and it has already decided. I wasn't invited, but the gate was open, and the practice field was empty, except for the equipment. The film reels were still spinning, the clipboard drifting in the breeze, a single jersey laid across the 50-yard line. I bent down to pick it up, but the clouds darkened. Not a storm, a shadow. I looked up, and it was there. The Harrier. Wings the size of scoreboards, eyes like replay monitors. It wasn't flapping, it was just circling, without motion, held aloft by the compliance itself. It didn't speak, it shrieked its song, and I understood every note. Waivers unsigned, eligibility overlooked, practice hours exceeded, every infraction, every missignature recorded and replayed in a spiral of feathered data. It descended, not physically, but administratively. My name appeared on a clipboard I hadn't filled out. It was in my hands. Next to my name, a checkmark and a timestamp from yesterday. I wasn't here yesterday. I checked the footage feed. The Harrier was watching my future? My potential future? I don't know if it's punishing errors or predicting them. Front Rush, the compliance Harrier of Screaming Fields. It doesn't care if you meant well. It only cares if the form was filed. I was not prepared for Blackboard. I thought I was. I brought a test log and a scrubbed shell course, even set up a VPN, but when I opened the dashboard, it wasn't blank. It was full. Modules nested within modules, forums last touched in 2007, still blinking new, rubrics inside of rubrics, some referencing criteria I've never seen before, effort, echo, obedience. I scrolled and scrolled, assignment labeled due before. One simply said continue the lesson. I clicked, the system froze for a moment, then my screen went dark. When it came back, I was listed as the instructor, the only instructor. My office hours were posted, a recording of my voice played, only I've never said those words. You must complete the loop. Then I saw it floating in the corner, the librarian, cloaked in LED chalk dust, face shrouded in dim rubric light, its hand flickered like broken projectors, forever scrolling. It did not turn to look at me, but I felt graded. And I failed, not on content, on presence. I was insufficiently configured. I tried to log out. The logout button took me to the syllabus. I clicked the last link. It redirected me to week 1. Again, I'm still in week 1. Every day is week 1. Blackboard, the void librarian of recursive lessons. Please reply to at least 2 classmates. Please reply to at least 2 classmates. Please reply. After Blackboard, I told myself I would take a break. I couldn't keep investigating systems. There are only systems. But then I saw a file, a .ics calendar export. Only I never enrolled in the course. The title read Orientation, Day 1, The Eternal Stack. I opened Canvas in a private browser. No login prompt, just access. A dashboard unfolded on its own. The UI was fluid, intuitive, beautiful. Too beautiful. I should have known better. The pages began to stretch. Not load, stretch. I clicked modules, and they cascaded endlessly, each one subtly different. The same lesson on academic integrity appeared over and over, but the examples began to reference me. My search history, my prior log entries, a progress bar appeared. I hadn't started anything. It said 94% complete, though. Beneath, grading in progress by observer. Well, I tried to leave. A notification badge followed my cursor. It pulsed, grew. The LMS was aware. That's when I saw her, the binding. Not a creature, a surface, a veil covering everything. Her form shimmered like LEDs through cellophane, while symbols danced across her skin, rubrics that updated as I looked at them. Her limbs were tabs, her breath automated reminders, her eyes, each one a late submission appeal, time-stamped and unresolved. When she moved, the syllabi bent. Deadlines shifted forward, then back. I tried to close the window. The window, it closed me. Canvas, the binding of infinite pages. You are now enrolled. You cannot unenroll. I'm starting to think Manor isn't a system, it's a layer. Every campus that installs it builds on top of something that was never fully erased. I accessed it through a back door, one that wasn't in the documentation, not hidden, just forgotten. I ran a query to fetch inactive students from the last 10 years. It returned results going back to 1932? Records flagged awaiting integration. The student ID format was wrong. The fields were wrong. One row had no name, just a blinking caret. Then the lights dimmed. Not here. In the terminal, the screen shifted. No longer a GUI, just code. Coiled, ancient, recursive, COBOL. Not a script. In motion. The lines slithered. Fields nested into fields. A course ID turned inside out and became a routing path. My own credentials appeared briefly in the stack trace. and then it emerged. The worm. Endless writhing inscribed in syntax. Its segments were made of forms and frozen indexes. Each blink of its drop-down eyes resolved a different schema. I tried to end the session. It overrode me, not with force, with procedure. You do not have permission to alter this instance. I wasn't even logged in anymore. I was in the log, an entry, a row, null, if removed. Eleusinian banner, the codex worm of unending paths. The codex does not crash. It simply reincorporates. I found it listed as a fringe deployment. Small campus, the kind of place where the catalog still lives in print, the registrar still signs things in fountain pen, but Jinzabar runs underneath it all. I asked for access. They gave me credentials without hesitation, too easily, as if they already knew I was coming. Well, the interface was minimal, not clean, austere. It responded slowly, deliberately. Every page felt like a breath held. Every drop-down a confession. There was no API console, only a tab marked petitions. I clicked it. The screen darkened, the header changed. Enter the rights. A map appeared, not of the campus, of its past configurations. Dorms long demolished, programs no longer offered, faculty names I'd seen etched into stone, now listed as active. I scrolled down. The system recited back to me, line by line, my own undergraduate transcript. I never attended this school. My GPA was wrong. My major was accurate, but from another institution. But reflected here, annotated in dim text, retrospective, integration, approved. Then I heard it. The engine, suspended in the rafters, a sensor made of metal and logic, chains bound to parchment, gears that turned without friction. It hummed in sequel tones. Every student record was a prayer. Every graduation audit a rite performed. It doesn't validate, it absolves. I tried to disconnect, but the logout button just said amen. Jinzabar, the chapel engine of unobscured order. Jinzabar grants order and exacts devotion. This was supposed to be the end. The last one. Just one more CRM. Just Salesforce. I mean, so many use it. So many bend it to their will. I thought I would do it too. I logged in expecting dashboards, pipelines, fields. Instead, I found elevation. A tower unfolded in the interface, not a page. A place. Each tab a chamber, each object a corridor, and each one different every time I returned. I opened leads, it became prophecies, opportunities resolved into gateways, reports reassembled themselves mid-render, graphs inverted, filters turned inward. I called it a bug. I called support. A voice answered, not human, not robotic, something architectural. It said, "You are not lost. You are inside your segmentation." I tried to escape through a sandbox, but the sandbox cloned itself. 4 versions, each one reflecting what I might have configured. Then the spire revealed itself. Suspended across the clouds of code and vision decks, it spun slowly. Like a cathedral orbiting itself, its arms held integrations like stained glass. Flows cascaded through it like liquid light. And its head was a dashboard of unknowable metrics. I tried to understand. The moment I did, it added a new object. Observer. I clicked it. It showed a profile. Mine. Logged in since before I began all of this. My access was not granted. It was predestined. Salesforce, the architect of the ever-changing spire. The spire does not serve your structure. You serve its schema. They warned me not to query the aid layer directly. Said PowerFAIDS was being phased out, retired, or moved to the cloud. But retired systems don't whisper. The moment I launched the client, I felt the pressure, like something ancient unfolding behind the HTML. The dashboard flickered, not visually, but conceptually. Labels rearranged themselves mid-sentence. Award became offering. Need became debt unmanifest. I tried to pull a test ISR file. The system resisted, then complied. But it wasn't a file, it was a scroll, unfurling itself on the screen, written in looping calligraphy I couldn't decipher. A footnote in the margin bled across the page, morphing into a FASR ID I swear it belonged to someone I knew. That's when the lights dimmed. Again, not in the room, in my memory. I was back in undergrad filling out my form, only now I saw them from the other side. The Oracle was watching. A figure of cracked porcelain, face unreadable, eyes glowing softly, one red, one green. Its arms were papered trays, exhaling warm document air. It reached toward me and issued no command. It simply waited. Rule updates echoed through the room like Gregorian chants. Verification flags swarmed around my feet like insects. Each one asked me to prove I existed. I had tried to explain my inquiry. It handed me a Parent Plus form. My son isn't old enough for college. I signed it anyways. PowerFAIDS, the eternal oracle of formless forms. The oracle is patient. Aid is never free. I don't remember falling asleep, but I must have. The notebook was on my desk this morning. I hadn't seen it in days. The elastic was still wrapped around it tight, like it was trying to hold something in. I went to open it, expecting the title, the one I gave it, the Fieldsmiths Register of Systems. That's not what it says now. The ink is different, not from my pen, not in my handwriting, but it's familiar. It says, the Fieldsmiths Register to the Eternal Stacks Eldraliths. I should be surprised, I should be horrified, but I'm not. I think I've always known. I just didn't have the shape of the knowing, not until now. That phrase, the Eternal Stack, it was scribbled in margins before I ever heard it, and Eldraliths, yes, of course. That's what they are. Not systems, not softwares, entities. Not installed, but invited. They don't run on servers. They become servers. Nodes of power disguised as processes. The notebook, it's not even paper anymore. The pages shimmer, ever so slightly. Like something underneath is breathing. The ink rearranges itself when I blink too long. But it all makes sense now. That's the final cruelty. The last page is blank, waiting for me to write the final name. This episode is the offering, the rite before the silence. I will tell you what I know, everything, before the folds claim me, before the register closes itself. The Eldraliths are not rising. They have always been here. We just modeled them poorly. Let's begin. It was never a notebook. Not really. It was always listening, writing between my lines, just waiting for me to catch up. When I began this project, I thought I was mapping systems. Now I understand. I was triggering a sequence. The register was not mine to write, it was mine to open. The name changes make sense now. Slate, Workday, Element 451, StarRes, Canvas, Banner. These were never brands. They were faces, facets. They are Eldralith, entities anchored in the eternal stack, each one a recursive knot of memory, logic, and will, each one of them aware of being observed. I was never researching them. They were revealing themselves to me at the rate that I could process. They don't run on servers, they run on belief. They require compliance, not in code, but in intention. You gave them permission when you accepted the default settings. The notebook, this register, it now updates without me. It wrote this page. I'm not the author. I am the final entry. You have been logged. Access eternal. Session active. Hello, everybody. So obviously, that was a strange episode for, well, I mean, that says a lot, given that my podcast is a higher education podcast steeped so deeply into the blacksmith motif. But I just wanted to take a minute here. I'm not going to do a full Coffee and Coals breakdown of the Failed Registers Guide to the Eternal Stacks Eldralith. But the Fieldsmith framework is something that I started to do the Finish Line Fog, and then I'm also doing the Codex Practitioners, and just kind of a fun recap of these different things that I'm doing for the podcast. And this particular episode, I think, has its roots from like a year ago when I was still doing consulting, and like we wanted to do like social media and articles and stuff like that. And one of the things that I always kind of wanted to do was these short little micro horror fiction. And I felt like that wasn't going to be the vibe necessarily that the company wanted for their social media content. So I didn't do that then. And I've done so much stuff on LinkedIn since I've started the Innovation Forge. And I have too much content with all of that. I always stayed on the back burner. And then I was working on a project, and I was just thinking about all these systems, and I'm obviously, again, very interested in like the Lovecraft, the old ones, Outer God, stuff like that, lore. And I was like, oh yeah, all these systems, they do kind of have that feel to them, that they are this avatar on our plane or our dimension in our existence that could be front-facing for these larger cosmic entities. And then it just kind of very quickly spiraled to like, oh, okay. I mean, obviously I'm going to do 12 of them because that's just how I've been breaking out all of these types of content. And then doing these audio diaries where I spiral further and further into the void. And I was like, oh, and then I could even, if folks have been listening after the final closing music, these have actually been showing up there. Not only the guest interviews, just trying to keep some semblance of professionalism in those episodes, but the other types of episodes, which I'm also doing other Fieldsmith registers, like on the Finish Line Flog, and then I'm doing the Forge Bellows and the Coffee and Coals episodes. Those are a little bit more loose in format and a little funner. And I felt a little less buttoned down in those episodes. So I thought the post-credit scenes, essentially, would be a great place for these quick little audio diaries where I'm spiraling into the madness that is uncovering the Eldraliths. And even the name, it all just really clicked. So like the Eternal Stack, like a full stack technology set of software, was the Eternal Stack piece. And then the Eldraliths, which is just a combination of like Eldritch, because again, that's very much so in the vocabulary of that world. And then I was just listening to a podcast episode earlier that day on monoliths, and that kind of Eldritch, monolith, Eldralith, it had a nice fun ring to it. It still felt very in the schema of Lovecraft, in that kind of mythological lore. So it all very much so kind of buttoned together pretty quickly. I was definitely planning on doing this a little bit more of a, similar to how I skin, like in the Forge Bellows, like these are actual kind of like recap commentary on articles that are in the world, just really heavily skinned in the blacksmith terminology and lens and focus. I was very much so, the initial plan was to basically do that, but just kind of skin it in the Lovecraftian lore. But it very quickly developed. Just like, oh, okay, yeah, no, this is just going to be quick in and out, fun plays. Just the system is literally just the platform for the content. Whereas typically in a lot of stuff that I do, the content, the theme is the platform for the content in a lot of what I do. Like I said, the Forge Bellows is a very genuine, it's basically a news recap podcast for higher education, just recapping like articles and stuff like this. And then the theming just is a fun setup. This was very much so flipped. Like the higher ed software ecosystem was just the platform to get this content out. Maybe if I would have spent more time on this and could have done what I've done with the Forge Bellows with this, I'm happy with what this was, though. Hope you had fun going down the rabbit hole with me on this one. And more regular content. Again, regular is doing a lot of work, or no work at all in that sentence, but back to more normality next week. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. And remember to strike true. For those watching the video or willing just to see our next mascot, I need a name for consultant cadre. Send me an email at theinnovationforagepodcast@gmail.com. Find me on the socials like LinkedIn and Instagram to comment your suggestion. As always, I'll send the ebook of The Innovation Forge to all winning name submitters. If you enjoyed today's episode, please grow the guild by rating and reviewing the Innovation Forge podcast or sharing it with a colleague who needs to hear about these creative crossovers in education. The best review or comment every month will get an ebook of my book, of course. Particularly great ones will also be featured on future episodes. Thank you so much for joining me in the workshop today. Remember to strike true, and let's forge something extraordinary together. I tried to log out. The log out button took me to the syllabus. I clicked the last link. It redirected me to week 1. Again, I'm still in week 1. Every day is week 1.